Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey, beautiful souls, it is Catherine Crestani here, and I wanted to have a chat with you about a really amazing cacao that I drink to help me get in ceremony, to help me ground, but also just because it tastes freaking good. So, if you're curious and want to know about drinking something other than coffee or your standard tea, why not check out Creation Cacao? I love this with a bit of honey and cinnamon sprinkled in and just letting it brew and having that whole intention as you create this cup. So if you're curious and want to know more, check out the link in the show notes and in the bio and enjoy your cup of cacao. Hey everyone, it's Catherine Crestani with another episode of Willow Healing Matters, and today I'm joined by the lovely Dayna Wylder. She is an energy healing practitioner, author, and guide devoted to helping people reconnect with their bodies and rediscover their innate capacity for healing. After years of living in a state of disconnection shaped by trauma, chronic stress, and nervous system dysregulation, she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, a moment that became not an ending but an awakening. Unwilling to accept a life defined solely by symptoms or limitations, she began a deep exploration into the mind-body connection, subtle energy, and ancient healing systems. Through this journey, she discovered the profound wisdom of the 5 Koshas, the layers of the human experience described in yogic philosophy, and began to understand that true healing must occur not just in the physical body, but across the energetic, emotional, mental, and spiritual dimensions of being. Her work now blends modern neuroscience, frequency and sound healing, somatic awareness, and biofield tuning with Eastern and Western wisdom traditions. She draws inspiration from pioneers in the fields of longevity, nervous system regulation, and consciousness studies while grounding her approach in lived experience, intuition, and compassion. Dayna Wylder is the author of an upcoming book that shares both her deeply personal story and the practical integrated tools she used to change her relationship with her body and her diagnosis. Her message is not about fixing what is broken, but about restoring communication between the body, mind, and soul. And through private sessions, group sound baths, healing circles, and online teachings, she empowers others to shift from fear into curiosity, from resistance into listening, and from survival into wholeness. Her work is an invitation to soften, to reconnect, and to awaken the healer within. So a big welcome to the show, Dayna.
Thank you so much, Catherine, for having me here. And thank you for making a space like this because we need more of this in the world right now. I know with my MS diagnosis, it was so much fear in the beginning. So to have places like this where we can talk about alternative things and safer things and just be curious, it's so welcome. So thank you for making this space.
Oh, you're so welcome. And this is why I made the space, because a lot of people don't realize that sometimes when they get a diagnosis or they're in a certain spot in their life, that there are alternative options available. And there are people with amazing stories and journeys to show that you don't always have to go the mainstream route if you don't feel to.
Yeah, and I think that's really important because the label and the diagnosis is pretty scary. And especially, you go to Dr. Google after and you get usually the worst case scenarios. And we already kind of were programmed with this negativity bias, which is good for survival, but not really for happiness and definitely not a place for healing. So it is way better to look at like the spontaneous healing and the people who walk this path already and ahead of you and all the things that were possible because I know I'd rather soak myself in that experience and that energy than the one that's doom and gloom that the doctor gave me when I got diagnosed 20 years ago.
Yeah, and I can imagine getting 20 years ago, getting that diagnosis of multiple sclerosis where there wasn't as much information around, right? It wasn't as much as our fingertips, and you couldn't just use AI or ChatGPT as well, to get that more information. You would have had to go on quite a deep dive to actually find that and allow yourself the courage to explore something different too.
Yeah, well, my doctor, like in Canada, we have very long wait times. So I think one of that actually kind of worked to my advantage though, because I already figured like I self-diagnosed the MS. I had done like brain and behavior courses and I kind of figured that was already what it was. And then an optometrist was the one that looked into my eye because I had lost vision in one eye and said, yes, have you thought of MS? Because my optic nerve was pale. So by the time 18 months later and I went and my MRI came and I went to meet the MS doctor and got the diagnosis, I already knew that I didn't believe that it was incurable. And I knew that they said to me, no, it's incurable, it's progressive, it's going to get worse. You'll probably be in a wheelchair in 10 years. So keep benefits and have someone to look after you. Here's some really dangerous meds. Go home. Good luck. And I right then knew, like, no way, that's not my story because I am like a guinea pig and a trailblazer and a risk taker. And I always was curious and I was always open to other things. And also, a little jaded already about the medical system through watching my dad, who was also had an autoimmune disease, but unfortunately hit the beginning of the opioid crisis before they knew the consequence of what that would do if you took that medication, trusting your doctor. So, I knew that that wasn't going to be the path. And honestly, my 10-year anniversary with my MS, I ran a triathlon. So, I think that that little bit of, kind of screw you to the doctor in the beginning really helped me. And it pushed me to look for other things. And, I found them and they worked for a long time. So for the first, 10, 15 years of the MS, I was doing okay still. But the last 5 years, like 6 years ago, I had a major relapse where all systems kind of down. One morning I wake up, I can't walk. And then 2 weeks later, I can't see. 2 weeks later, I can't use my arms. Then my trunk went, so now I can't even sit up, and I need full care by people. And I hadn't really respected the MS before that, but wow, that was like a real awakening as to what this disease could look like. And I wasn't managing my emotions around that time. So I kind of already knew when that relapse was happening. I'm like, yeah, even though I knew better, I wasn't living what I knew. And I let myself kind of get into the chaos of life, and the relapse naturally followed. And so I did know all the steps I was going to need to kind of heal, but I had to go way deeper this time because this wasn't just about maintaining health or kind of, some symptom management. This was like rebuilding my entire body. So this time I had to go way deeper and I developed so many new modalities and healing methods. And I had made a promise in that darkest moment when I was crawling that if God would give me the answers to what it took to heal, that I would heal other people. So this is me now making good on that promise.
That is such a beautiful promise to make. But also, sometimes, I found that the universe will make us have those moments where, like you said, you knew better, but at the same time, you push it to the side and you ignore it. And it's then that all of it kind of flourishes and comes back up. But you have a choice in that moment, right? You can choose to give up, or you can ask for divine intervention and for assistance. And miracles do happen, like, all the time. But it's to have the courage to ask and look deeper. And like you said, you knew you had to go deeper this time. You couldn't just put a band-aid over and go, yep, I've got this now. I've dealt with it on the surface level. It'll be fine. And I always say that sometimes when we go that deeper, it's the universe saying, nope, you miss the bigger thing underneath. You need to come back to that because that is why your soul has decided to express itself this way. But at the same time, what are you missing in your life? Like, what are you missing?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I believe that same thing that the energy, the patterns in your life show you what lessons you need to learn and you haven't learned yet. And the universe will always give you another opportunity if you didn't get it right the first time. And if you don't get it right this time, you're probably going to get it again still. Maybe, hopefully, I think I can course correct quicker now. So it's not still that my triggers don't kind of hit sometimes, but once you see it happening, once you're aware of your energetic patterns and the story of your life, it's hopefully gets easier to get yourself back on track. And I actually use the MS now as a barometer. So I don't even really fight against it anymore. I mean, if the symptoms come back, I know immediately that I've gone off path. So this is now the universe saying to me, "No, you're straying again. That's why the symptoms are returning." So instead of catastrophizing that and getting really stressed out like I would have years ago, I'm like, "Oh, a relapse is happening. Oh, maybe I should have took the meds, or maybe I should have done this, or maybe this or that." And I spiral. Now I just say to myself, "Okay, maybe that thing you said yes to, you should have said no. Maybe somebody else's drama you took on wasn't yours. Give it back. Maybe, take some more time, work a little less." Right? Like there are so many things now, and it's just so much easier for me instead of like spinning out to just immediately say, I need to change something. And your body will respond when you actually start listening to it. and make space for it to communicate to you, because that's what all those symptoms are. They're not punishment, it is communication. Like your mind thinks in language, your body is in sensation, emotion, and pain and discomfort. Sometimes it's nice feelings too. It's not all negative. Your body's not just giving you bad stuff, but usually that's the ones we're trying to avoid. And we stuff
Mm,
them down and we take an Advil or we take medication or
numb
we,
it. Yeah.
yeah. And even we use that food. Like we don't even listen to those basic simple symptoms of hunger. And a lot of us will just keep eating or snacking when we're not hungry, or these are all just ways we're just suppressing all of those emotions, signals, and experiences. And like you said, then you repeat them again. Life will bring it back to you.
Yeah, and I love that you brought up that you've now kind of befriended your symptoms, right? It's not something to fear. It's like a thermometer almost, like, wow, like we're getting too hot in this situation. You got to back off. And about a year ago, it was just a bit over a year ago, I started going numb. So I started losing feeling in my pinky, and it ended up being half my face. And every day I was waking up and I heard, you're heading for an autoimmune, you're heading for an autoimmune. And I'm very intuitive. And I knew like my system was kind of fried. And everyone, I would go to my team. So I have chiropractors, I have biofield tuners, I have, I go to my support team, and that would shift for a few days and come back. And it was finally when I met with this beautiful healing couple, and they went, Catherine, you know this, until you address the underlying cause of the numbness, nothing's going to shift permanently. It'll go, but it'll come back. And and I knew straight away. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm numbing myself to go to work because I didn't want to be in that role anymore. So I was actually numbing my system to go, and I was holding out for our house to sell. Which, funnily enough, it's been over a year and that still hasn't happened. So I wouldn't have lasted. But I was meditating with my coach at the time, and my heart, he's like, what is your heart telling you to do? And I said, quit. And it was like this non-negotiable. And I knew, Dayna, at that moment, if I didn't quit my job, that was it. That was my final warning. I was going to tip over and then go into who knows what journey after that. And I know like how hard it is once you get into that autoimmune diagnosis, how hard it is to pull back from that. So my guides were like, this is it, make your choice. So I did. I quit my job. And the first day I was stay-at-home mum, my main role, every single symptom disappeared. And it's funny because whenever I feel that stress coming back or I'm taking on too much, exactly like you said, the numbness starts to creep back in. And then I go, okay, but first of all, I check, is this mine or is this someone else's? Because sometimes I'm working with clients. I'm like, no, that's theirs. Okay, great. Thank you for the distinction. But if it's me, then I'm like, okay, where am I not listening? Where am I pushing too hard? And then, like you said, your body gives you the signal so you can get that feedback, so you can bring that temperature back down. So it's more tolerable, but not even tolerable. It's just you come back into alignment and you allow yourself to be who you need to be rather than pushing for whatever reason.
Yeah, had a similar experience, like that relapse happened, and that was right around COVID time. And so I just started working from home. And I already did not like my job. I already didn't feel aligned with it. I was working in insurance, which was not at all. It's like I'm arguing with people on the phone to support a company's opinion, which I don't hold myself, but you're getting paid to do it. So and I'm working for the 1% in the world, and I'm watching, like I'm dealing with people that have art collections on their yacht, and I'm worrying about how can I ensure this while they travel the globe. And then I'm stepping outside to walk over people on sewer grates outside. So now I come home from that job because we're all locked down, and I'm homeschooling my kids at the same time. So I'm working at home, I'm homeschooling. It's so stressful. And the whole time I'm hating my company and hating the job, and they're pressuring me. And I think that that was when my body too just started saying, like, we're going to make it so that you can't work anymore. So if I had listened, I think that first time where just my legs weren't working, I woke up and I couldn't walk. Maybe it would have stopped there, but I am so stubborn and I didn't listen. I put my numb legs and with my hands under my desk and continued to type. And then now it became my eyes and my hand. And I'm like, well, now I couldn't even force this if I wanted. Life has said, full stop, you are not doing this job anymore. And I think that you could see that as a punishment in life and get really angry about it. And then, that depression could spiral you into more sickness. But to me, I knew right then that this is a catalyst for change. And it's unfortunate that some of us need such a loud signal. And maybe if I had to listen to what my body whispered, maybe things would have been easier. But my life, I do everything big. So the happy times are big, the hard ones are big too. So this is just one of those moments where my body really did start screaming and said, like, I demand that you listen now.
It's so interesting because I had someone tell me a couple months ago, stop using your body as a punching bag. And I went, thank you. Because I was like, body I'd always let it get to the point that my body was expressing what was happening rather than stopping it before that point and listening to the feeling before it got to the body, and learning to shift that has been a big journey because it is big. We're so conditioned to push our emotions down, to not pay attention to them, to use your head over your heart, which is so the opposite of how our body actually works.
Yeah, I feel like if I had have set a mental boundary, then my body wouldn't have had to do it for me. And I mean, there is with MS a personality kind of trait of people share when they have MS, which tends to be like A type personalities, doers, perfectionists. Maybe even, I don't want to be insulting to other people that maybe have autoimmune disease, but I'm talking about myself here too. A little bit of like judgmental, like a lot of expectations, a lot of pressure on everything, right? Everything always has to be perfect. And this feeling of if I'm not doing something or achieving something, I'm not worthwhile. And I think that my mind never gave me the safety to say, oh, it's okay to say no or to put up a boundary or to say, like, I'm too tired to do that or no, I can't sign up. I can't bake more cookies for the class tomorrow when I'm working right now or I'm doing other things, right? And so I think because my mind didn't set the boundary, my body did it for me. And because now nobody possibly is going to say, well, I'm disappointed with you because you couldn't do this thing because you're like, well, I have MS. Right? Well, no, because of my MS, like, no, I can't do that thing now. I can't host again. No, I can't help you move. Now I can't do all of these things. It's not me, it's my MS. And that felt like a
Mm.
safer excuse maybe. And, I'm not saying that people make this stuff up on purpose because certainly I wasn't thinking this consciously. But when you look back and you unpack some of these patterns, it starts to almost become obvious that, yeah, if I had have maybe made some better boundaries, my body wouldn't have had to do it for me. And, people that have pain or even when you get a migraine, a lot of times it can be this where, maybe you just really, if you had have just said, I'm tired, I don't want to cook tonight, you guys figure out dinner or order out, I don't know, I'm tired. And went and laid down. Maybe you wouldn't have got the migraine that made you go lie down.
Yeah,
Now, I don't know that for sure.
100%.
There's physical traumas to the body too. There is toxins, there's nutrient deficiencies. For sure, there's things come from the body. But I believe a lot of it stems from the emotions and your thought loops.
Yeah. And I tell people if they're curious or they're like a pain comes out of nowhere, like, oh, my shoulder really hurts all of a sudden, but you haven't done anything to it. Like you weren't playing tennis or you didn't fall or even if you were playing tennis, you can still be curious, right? And I say, just go on to Google this thing that we have these days and type spiritual meaning of right shoulder pain or, uh, numbness in left leg. See what comes up. And I can guarantee you 90% of the time, it will be exactly what's happening on the emotional front in your life. And this is where, there's that bridge where our body is an invitation to go deeper and like all the work that you do, regulate your nervous system, come back to the emotions and how can you shift things on all levels rather than just addressing the physical. The physical's the last expression, whereas there's a lot going on underneath before it gets to that physical point.
Yeah, and I always think that the physical body is kind of like a paradox to me because your physical body is illusionary. Really, it is being created upstream by the spirit, by the mind, by the emotions, the energy field oscillating, which is not the body is downstream. But the body also is we're so stuck in that illusion of it. If we get the physical body wrong, the end result is disease or death. So
100%.
it feels like it's consequential and it's the most important part. but really it's not where the problems originate from, and it's not where we mostly solve them. And this is why I love the Kosha model, because it did match how my own healing did progress, but it does look at these concentric layers. So the body being the gross physical part. And when you go inside, you have the energy body. And that's like the animating force. So whether that's like prana or chi, so we can think of terms like acupuncture, chakras, the nadis. This is a thing that animates the body and gives it its vitality and its life. Well, the energy is what is going to be required to do the biochemistry of the body, to do the machinery of the body. But even inside of that, you have this finer layer, more subtle layer of the mental body. And the mental body is now informing, it's the information that's telling the energy what to do, the biochemistry in the body. And we see this even like when we think of terms like not so esoteric now, but just in like neuroscience that, when we have a belief in the brain, then that belief gives us a view of the a paradigm of the world. So when external events happen to us, we think about them a certain way, we give meaning to them. That creates an emotion. The emotion then creates through our limbic system neurotransmitters and hormones. And that bathes our body either in stress hormones or healing hormones. And that affects your nervous system. And so, we see how these things are all layered, but I go even further in the kosha model and, looking at yoga and a little bit more spiritual that even above just that mental landscape, which is creating the emotions, where is the wisdom? Where is the discernment, the intuition, the instinct, that sort of like part of you that didn't need all the data, didn't need to read more books, it didn't need more information. It needed to like come from inside of you, like an understanding that you just knew, like truths that just kind of land without someone needing to explain it to you. And then even above that is like this bliss body. And when you get the bliss body right, and that's the overarching architect, that's what we're talking about, this purpose. Like you said in the beginning, like the energy patterns that keep coming back again and again, because you kind of agreed that this is what you were doing this time around. Well, your bliss body or that purpose, the soul knows what you needed to do. And when you're in alignment with that, and when that is the top thing and it's harmonized and it's got vibrating at a beautiful, coherent frequency, the physical body doesn't matter as much because the physical body can make mistakes. Like if you eat gluten or you had some alcohol or something happen, you're probably not going to get sick from it because your bliss, your purpose, your alignment was shining and beautiful and coherent. But if the top parts of you are falling apart too, and you're not aligned, you're not intuitive, you're not listening, you're not connected, then all of a sudden the body only matters. And now you better get the body right. Now you need to do the diets and the exercise and all of the right things because you only are living in that physical body. And so you have to maintain this tight, rigid structure to get it right. But that structure then makes you anxious and puts you on hypervigilance, which makes your nervous system and your, all of your mindscape more toxic. And so it keeps you in this loop of always needing to be perfect and to be working on something and striving. If we just learned how to get a little bit more to that top layer and just be happy and stop pushing so hard, and just align to with what is and just be okay with ourselves and with life and go in the flow a little bit more, I think we have more wiggle room and grace. And then the physical body stops being so consequential.
Yeah, this has been a big lesson I've had to learn because my background's in speech language pathology, but I built businesses as well. But I was so guilty of pushing, 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 pushing. And even when I've still been unlearning that because it's this hustle culture that we've been brought up in where we're like, no, you have to be working a 9 to 5. And then we've got all our money stories. Like for me, I had to unpack, you have to work hard for your money. It's like, no, when you're in alignment, it just flows in, and even at the start of this year, I was journaling and I wrote down, why don't I have any clients? And what I wrote back was, I don't want any because what? I was like, actually, no, I don't want any because I was focusing on finishing my book. I was doing my podcast. I had a lot going on. My body was like, we can't take clients on as well. Like, this is too much. And then about 2 weeks ago, I was in this energetic sales workshop and I sat there and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm ready to have clients again. And I kid you not, Dayna, within the hour, all of a sudden all these like phone calls were coming through on the place I work for. And then all these clients were reaching out who wanted me to do sessions and things. And I was like, wow, thank you. And last week was such a big week. And then I got to Sunday and I crashed out. And my husband's like, why are you so tired? You slept really well. I said, I am just energetically done at the moment. Like, I just need this day to do nothing. Like, I generally need a binge watch Netflix or something day, right? And then I had someone reach out because sometimes the universe likes to test our resolve a little bit too, right? I was like, right, I've still got interviews, I've still got podcasts this week. I need to back off a little bit. And then sure enough, we've had a cancellation. Can you be on this panel? And normally I would say yes. And I'm like, nope, nope, no, exactly like you said. Sometimes you have to know where to put those boundaries before you push yourself too far, because the old me would have gone, oh yeah, I'm more than happy to help. Of course, I'll come on. And the new me was like, nah, I've got too much on. Like, I just, nah, just not doing it. I just want that time to be with my son, or just want that time to be, just to be. And that's that distinction. And you know that you've grown and you know that you've shifted, because you're not suddenly living to everyone else's expectations. You're creating your own from within you, like you said, from that bliss point. And it's not about, because happiness is a state of peace. A lot of us think happiness is the euphoric part all the time, but you can't be like that all the time, because life is ups and downs. You never get the highs without the lows. You have to understand that there's a balance there, but it's, can you come back quicker to your natural state that you're being pulled to?
One of the beautiful parts about owning your own business is that I get to decide now what I want to work on. So I did the same thing as you. I was working on the clients for a long time and building a practice. And then I started writing a book and started doing courses and podcasting. And I did switch the direction. And people kept saying to me, yeah, but aren't you worried now? Because that was my cash flow, right? Was the clients coming. And I was like, but I got to the same conclusion you did too. I'm like, I don't think I want them. Not right now anyway, like, because what is my energy excited about? So whenever I'm thinking about a task right now, am I getting excited about it or am I feeling drained? And I started to feel drained about the clients. And it wasn't because I don't like working with clients, but it was because I see people in my house and I had a puppy and now I'm worrying about the dog and you got to keep your house clean. And my kids now, I can't be back and forth driving to school because I have clients coming. And so all of a sudden I was like, that is actually draining me and I don't have to do that if I don't want to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if I decide that that is actually something that is turning my dial down in life, then I'm going to just turn that one off for a minute and go to somewhere else, because all of the things I'm trying to do, this mission of helping people, can be served in so many ways. And this is one of those great things about manifesting, is when we truly understand that we don't have to have such tight expectations on how things show up. We just have to put the intention out, and then the world will provide for us in the way that works for us, which means sometimes some doors do close so another one can open. And for me right now, with the way my life is set up and my own health, I think it felt more beneficial to do like large groups instead of one on one. And so all of a sudden now it became more about podcasting and doing workshops and so even though I was a little stressed out in the beginning there about the clients part, I think I reached that same conclusion you did. Like, well, why am I not having more clients? Because I don't want to. And that is the truth. And I think when you can understand that and accept those parts of yourself and ask the question and then not be scared because you're okay to act on the answer you get. Because I think a lot of people resist even being curious to ask, because once you have the answer, well, you kind of feel obligated then that you have to, go in the direction that the universe is kind of giving you.
Yeah. Or they're just scared for the answer. It's because they already know, right? So they already know what the answer is at some level, because we do have that intuition, that inner wisdom all the time. Everyone has it. It's just if you're numbed yourself off and disconnected so much that, are you open to coming back to that? And are you opening to follow it? The best expression I heard is that intuition should be acted upon, not put in a drawer. And I was like, yes. And I would tell you right now, if you keep ignoring your intuition and it's something that you really need to be doing, the universe will keep turning the message up till it's louder and louder and louder until it hits you in the face. And it might literally hit you in the face, or, you wake up and you can't get out of bed, or you wake up and you're numb, or you wake up and, all of a sudden you've broken your toe, whatever it looks like. So this is where it's really important to start to tune in and have a little bit of courage. And it's okay to change as well, and to give yourself permission and grace to do that as well. Because sometimes we might want something and we have that, and then it doesn't feel in alignment anymore. And that's okay to change and shift as well.
Yeah, and I think that this is part of the being curious is that when I was trying to heal myself, because all the things I do with clients now and the things that I incorporate in my courses and my book are things that I did on myself. And I did a lot of things and I spent a lot of money and I went down a lot of rabbit holes that I didn't get the results from. And it never felt like a failure to me. It never felt like a waste. It was just like learning and learning about myself. And maybe some of those things that I did might have been beneficial for somebody else, but just not for me. And to feel like giving up or to feel like that was, or I think even worse than the giving up part, that some people feel like once they've gone down one thing and they've talked about it and they've done it, that they're kind of obligated now to keep supporting it. And it's like, but sometimes things reach a natural conclusion, or sometimes it was only in service of a different path. And so that was not supposed to be the whole story. That was just one part of the journey, and another fork in the road opened up. And it's okay to go a different direction now and to not feel like let down or stalled by the other roads that you took. They're part of the beautiful journey of the story that you're writing. And
Yeah.
as long as you have that overarching kind of, I think the why and the passion and the purpose, it doesn't really matter what the journey looks like to get there, and enjoy the journey too. Like, because life is like, even with my healing, there's not a destination that I'm getting to where I'm like, okay, that's it. I've done with the MS now and I'm perfectly good. No, I'll hit menopause and then my body will age and then maybe something else comes up. Like, your body and your life, your health, your spiritual path, it is an ongoing journey. And so just enjoy it as it's happening. And I like the idea of just being curious because it's way more fun. Like, life is way more fun when we're not stuck in a rut or we're not obligated to something. But if you could wake up every day and follow your passion and where you're leading, what a beautiful life.
I was doing a session for someone the other week, and the expression came through: choose your level of suffering. Like, do you want to suffer doing something that you're passionate about? Like getting up and going, oh, I'm doing these interviews, but I'm excited because I'm sharing it. That is like a different level of suffering versus, oh, I'm doing this because my boss told me I have to, right? So you choose your level of suffering or your level of pain, I guess. But when it's aligned with where you're heading, you don't mind. And it's okay to have a little bit of stress. It's when you're in constant stress that it can tax the body too much, or you're in resistance to something bigger than what you're actually realizing too.
That's why I feel like with the bliss, I don't want people to misunderstand it. Living in bliss is not constant happiness. It's not toxic positivity. It's not just always stuffing things and going, no, I'll just be happy. I'm okay. Like, it's not saying you can cry and you can be pissed off and you can have bad days and you can feel all of the emotions, because none of them are good or bad. They're just emotions and they just move through you. The bliss to me is really what the thing you're speaking of right now. When you have a passion and when you have something that's like the North Star that's holding you in life. And I know what mine is, which is this mission to like help educate people to heal and what's possible and to open people's experience so that they don't stay stuck. And knowing that it doesn't matter how it comes to me. It could be podcasts, it can be a book, workshops, it can be one-on-one. It can look anyway. It can, and even if this business for me shuts down and it just ends up being that I just on an individual personal level to friends, family, or people I meet that I connect with, that's okay too. Because I can show up in any way. And this idea of this bliss is just really to say what you're saying. Even it's not every day isn't going to be easy. Some days are going to be harder than others. It's hard to start a business or to work for yourself. But I know every day when I'm going to get up and I'm going to do this, I know the reason why, and I want to do it. And I can, it's different. Like when I worked for my boss, I worked way less hours than I work now. I work so many free hours when you work for yourself because you're doing all of these things that it's not a one to one. You're not getting paid for it. It's all this extra stuff behind the scenes. But I don't even mind doing it. I love doing it, even though, you might see me momentarily trying to figure out the tech because tech isn't my thing. I like, the spiritual part of things. I like teaching yoga. I don't really like figuring out back end website stuff. But it doesn't matter because that I have this really strong North Star. I will push through those things happily. Like you're saying, it is feels like suffering in some way because you're putting in this effort and this grind, but the grind is in service of something that your heart is aligned and it wants. It's not because somebody made you do it. And I think I heard this even said somewhere, and I've used this a lot, and I don't know where I heard it, that to switch even just between saying, I need to do this and I want to do it. Even small tasks like cooking dinner next for me instead of saying, "I have to cook dinner." And then the energy drains from you instantly when you think that way to saying like, "I want to. I want to cook this healthy meal. I want to sit down with my family. I want to spend time doing this." It instantly shifts the energy that you put into it, and one energizes you and one drains you. And I'd rather live a life where I feel energized in all, even the menial tasks.
Dr. John D. Martini talks about this. So if you use words like should, have, need, they're actually a lower vibration, and they imply that someone else is expecting that of you. Once on the borderline, but if you say I choose, I desire, or I love, so I choose to cook dinner for my family because if I go out, I can't trust the food that we're eating, right? Like I rather feel better. I choose to help my son clean out the rabbit poos, even though I don't want to, so, it has exactly like you said, it has a
Because
different
I desire
resonance.
for it to smell nicer in my house. We have a rabbit too, so
Yeah, don't let that ammonia just infiltrate every part of
yeah.
your senses, right? So I understand. And at the same time, we're going to start finishing our time together, Dayna, but I want to hear a little bit more about the book that you're writing. So when do you hope to finish it, or it's just in its journey stage?
No, it's done. It's actually I should update my bio because the book is, yeah, it's been out since Christmas. I
Great.
actually now released the companion workbook too to go deeper. So the book is Unlearn Disease, Relearn Wellbeing. And it is part memoir. So there's a bit of my own personal healing with MS in there and my energetic pattern because I really unpack all of the kind of secondary gains and the emotional things that kind of led to my MS manifesting. But it really is also this kosha model of taking you through each phase, like we talked through the physical body, energy, mental, intuition, or wisdom body, and the bliss body. And as I unlayer all those, really getting into all the modalities that I do that can help people. So diving into meditation, to hypnosis, sound healing, and then the frequency devices and the bioresonance scannings that I do. And so it gives a lot of information about things that are available to help heal. I mean, the thing about this is it doesn't matter what disease or what, whether it's even mental or it's physical in the body. Most things manifest for the same reason, which is, oscillations in your energy field and in your emotions. So the causes and the cures are almost always the same. So this book can apply to anybody regardless. It doesn't have to be MS. It's not MS specific. And it has a lot of exercises and practice that you go through throughout the book. So you're kind of embodying them as you go. A lot of like actual meditations and practices and NLP style coaching in it. And then I developed the workbook to go just even deeper. So now you have a lot of more practices in it, but then like journal prompts and ways to reflect on it so that you can kind of work through it on a physical level. So you're embodying the book as well.
Beautiful. I love that. Amazing. And I asked the guests to come on the show, Dayna, if you could heal or change something in the world, what would it be?
This is going to seem off topic for healing, but this one is so obvious to me. It would solve so many world problems. I would actually get rid of corporations. And, I'm an environmentalist too. And I think a lot of the problems in the world and the stresses that we have as a society, because I believe we have a lot of stress externally. And I think that is through this disaligned people that we don't really like our jobs. We're really ruining our environment. We have this need for this kind of progress towards something that disconnects us from the natural rhythms and the way that we interact with each other. And if we didn't have corporations and we dealt like person to person again, not only would we not, be raping the environment, but we would be kinder to each other and how we deal with each other because we would have a personal responsibility in a relationship. So if we had this kind of like trust level with each other and we couldn't shield behind an entity that doesn't have a soul, we would just be coming back more to like, the basic tenets of like do unto others as you would have done unto you. And that, there don't trespass on other people's property. And that energetically would shift so many things in the way that we deal with the environment, with our jobs, with each other. And I know that that doesn't really have a lot to do with your health, but it actually does. I don't have time because it would be a whole nother show to unpack how
Yeah.
in which that does. But I think that it speaks even at an energetic level to just having more soul in everything we do and less, you know, corporate influence.
Well, I feel it's a beautiful reminder that we are all connected, right? The law of one. And also that we are nature, we come from nature, we are one with nature. And because we've become so disconnected from that, that a lot of the time we don't realize that our healing can be connected by realizing that we are something, part of something bigger. And it's interesting because I just watched the Hoppers movie on the weekend for our family movie day, but the opening scene was like this beautiful kind of glade, and the grandmother said to the granddaughter while they were looking over nature, when we feel we are connected to something bigger, it's hard to be mad. And I'm like, oh, this is why I came to watch this movie. Obviously the rest got a little bit crazy because it's Disney, but at the same time, it was just such a pertinent statement because we are part of something bigger, like you said. And if we can go back to realizing how much we can interact with each other and influence each other, it would have such a profound effect on our world.
It would. And, healing is a shared experience. And this is why when I was healing myself, I knew that it was going to be foundational for me to help other people heal because we are not separate. I mean, yoga is my background. So that's how this whole journey started for me. And it is the model for my healing. And yoga teaches us to yoke or unite mind and body, and that everything comes in oneness. And I think that that's not even just yoga. When we really look at every spiritual tradition and religious tradition around the world, they're all at the core of that one principle, right? Of that there is just this one, that we all come from source and that we're all part of it. And I think we need to extend that to, the environment too, right? Because the earth that we live on and the plants, the animals, and everything that we're with, they share the energy with us too. So we need to bring them into the fold as well of the healing.
Percent. And if people want to come and find you, Dayna, to work with you or find your book, where's the best place they can connect?
Yeah. So the book is available Amazon, and then my website is energyovermatter.com. And from my website you could join my free healing circle, and that is like a group healing where we do meditation, sound healing, and just kind of dharma talks on just energy things and our purpose, much like the conversation we're just having here today. And then that's where you can book me one-on-one too.
Amazing. I'll make sure to pop all those details in the show notes. So for everyone listening, thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to like, subscribe, or share. And if you are curious about what Dayna does, by all means, use that as an invitation to go deeper and go check her out, her work, or get her book. So a big thank you for everyone for tuning in. And a big thank you, Dayna, for this conversation and for sharing the healing knowledge that you've collected through your own healing journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
She knew everything about him. That was the problem. In my new romantic thriller, My Virtual Obsession, we explore what happens when loneliness takes you down a path you never expected, when technology and surveillance begin to infiltrate every area of your life to the point you no longer recognize it. As Clive logged in for company, he never expected the events to unfold. If you'd like to learn more or read My Virtual Obsession, check it out on Amazon, my website, willowhealing.org, as well as your favorite ebook readers. Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.